In the 1990s, the gaming industry was transitioning to an era where technology began to shape new kinds of experiences. Developers started exploring the potential of the medium, going beyond basic mechanics and focusing on creating worlds that were immersive, realistic, and engaging. One of the most iconic titles to emerge during this time, and a game that I've never ever talked about on this channel, was none other than Donkey Kong Country, released in 1994 for the SNES. I've talked about this game a ton on this channel. I'm pretty much just a Donkey Kong YouTuber at this point, but it's what I enjoy talking about. These are my favorite games ever, so why would I not talk about them and talk about my favorite things that these games do? The game obviously was developed by Rare, and the game did more than just push the boundaries of technology. It demonstrated how effective visual storytelling could be executed effectively, not just in general, but in video games as a medium. The game opens with a very simple premise. Obviously, you all know it by this point. Donkey Kong's banana hoard has been stolen. The plot is clear, but there's no need for text or narration to tell this. The moment that Donkey Kong wakes up and sees his hoard gone, players immediately understand the stakes. Donkey Kong wants his bananas back. This is a very direct and effective approach to storytelling, but it's effective in the way that they use visuals, immediately engaging the player in this story. By having little to no dialogue at all, Rare relies specifically on the power of visual cues, body language, and the environment to establish the tone and the player's goal, the entire point of this journey that you're about to go on. The progression of the game mirrors the journey the characters take. Each level represents a new area, and each area tells a distinct part of the overall story. From the jungle to caves, the underwater ruins, the treacherous snow-covered peaks. Each environment feels like a step forward in this epic adventure, even if it is just for a hoard of bananas. These changes in environment aren't just cosmetic either. The game subtly shifts the atmosphere and difficulty to reflect these growing stakes. And as the players move from lush jungles to more dangerous industrial zones, the visual design heightens the tension. The game doesn't need a plot twist or long cutscenes to communicate these escalating challenges. You can see it all. The world itself tells you the story. Beyond the environments, the character animations also play a very big role in the storytelling here. Donkey Kong's confident, often deliberate movements create an impression of strength and determination to get these bananas back. His interactions with the world, whether he's throwing barrels or charging at enemies, they reinforce his role as the determined hero. Meanwhile, Diddy Kong's smaller, more agile movements create a sense of lightness and energy. This contrast in animation styles between the two characters really helps define their personalities without any need for dialogue. Rare understood how crucial nonverbal cues could be, and these movements create an emotional connection with the player. Take, for example, the underwater levels. The setting shifts dramatically here, and with it, so does the tone, the atmosphere, and the music. The environment becomes more serene, the music calming, and the color palette shifts to cooler, more muted tones. The player is immersed in a completely different atmosphere. While the gameplay in these levels might not differ greatly from other water levels, the change in ambience introduces a sense of tranquility, but not without its own challenges. Enemies like the Chomps add tension to the otherwise peaceful setting. The contrast between the calm visuals and the lurking danger heightens the emotional impact of the level. These subtle shifts in tone, paired with smart environmental design, tell the story of a character navigating through different moods, all without saying a single word. As the game progresses, the environments undergo a very clear transformation. In the early levels, the setting feels very natural, somewhat empty, with dense jungles, vibrant plants, lush greenery, and animals. These levels establish Donkey Kong's world, a world that's organic, alive, vibrant, and full of color. But as the game moves forward, we enter more industrial, man-made spaces such as the factory levels set up by the Kremlings. The once vibrant palette becomes cold with grays and metallic hues and blacks and dark browns and oppressive architecture. The sound design also takes a massive shift here. with harsher, more mechanical noises replacing the jungle's natural ambience of the earlier stages. This visual shift represents the intrusion of King K. Rool's forces onto Donkey Kong's world. It's a very clear reflection of the conflict. Donkey Kong's natural environment is being overtaken by the mechanical and industrial forces of his enemies. The game's visual storytelling reaches its peak during the very final confrontation with King K. Rool. The setting of the battle, a pirate ship, feels very distant and alien and menacing. King K. Rool's design is very exaggerated, his movements exaggerated even further, creating a sense of over-the-top menace, which is the perfect way that I could describe King K. Rool in this script. He's an over-the-top menace. This fight stands in stark contrast to the earlier levels, both in terms of environment and the fight itself. The pirate ship is an industrial, hostile environment, underscoring the struggle between Donkey Kong's wild, natural world and K. Rool's harsh, invasive forces. The visual contrast during this boss fight really drives home the idea of the ultimate battle for the jungle's future. The ship itself, with its dark brown, gloomy colors and wooden aesthetic, is the physical manifestation of Donkey Kong's enemies' domination. After King K. Rool is defeated, the final scene presents Donkey Kong and Diddy Kong triumphantly reclaiming their banana hoard. The music swells and the jungle returns to its lush, vibrant state, now restored to peace. The visuals here are triumphant, conveying the emotional payoff of the entire journey. The simple act of recovering the bananas is shown as a very significant victory to these characters. Not just for Donkey Kong and Diddy Kong either, but for Cranky Kong, Candy Kong, Funky Kong, and for the entire natural world that was threatened by King K. Rool's industrialization. Through this, the visual design does more than just show the victory, it celebrates it. I know I've talked about this game a lot, and I'm not planning on stopping anytime soon. And what makes Donkey Kong Country stand out as a piece of visual storytelling is Rare's ability to convey complex emotions, settings, and narrative developments without relying on dialogue or cutscenes at all. Every single environment, every character design, every animation works in unison to tell a story that feels very immersive and impactful, regardless of how shallow it may appear to be. The limitations of the Super Nintendo hardware were not a hindrance either. Instead, Rare uses them creatively to craft a visually rich world that has proven to stand the test of time. The visual storytelling in Donkey Kong Country proves that great narrative doesn't always need words. It just needs a little bit of creativity.